So I'll also let you jump in here to Android 11 because this is looking pretty interesting.
Yeah, so Android 11 released today, September 8th, and it is not just available on Pixels. It's available on the Pixel 2 and above, all the way up to the 4 and 4A. Um, but it's also being released on a number of different phones like Oppo and stuff like that. The most significant phone it's also coming to is the OnePlus 8 and OnePlus 8 Pro today.
I'm wondering if the 7 series is gonna get it.
It will, but not today.
Yeah, not today. Well, I mean, yeah, as soon as it
Um,
gets it, I'm gonna upgrade to it to play with it. But
yeah. Um, Now this is not like a super big upgrade. Like you look at like iOS 12 where they're adding like really big like user changing
iOS
like
14.
user. Yes, why
Okay,
did I say?
okay.
Um, you look at what they're releasing though, like iOS 14's dropping like widgets and stuff. Like that's a pretty significant change to iOS.
Yes.
Whereas this is more um, refinement. And
Yeah.
so what we're seeing is a few things. So, or a lot of small features, and then a few, I would say, like medium features. Nothing
Well,
huge.
and a pile of copycat features.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if we're gonna knock iOS for copying Android, we gotta knock Android for copying iOS, right?
Exactly. You know, I mean, sure. You know,
Um,
Steve Jobs used to say copying good products, good ideas is okay. I don't disagree, but we're still gonna talk shit about it.
yeah, I mean, like at this point, both of the OSs are mature enough
Yeah.
that, like, if there's a glaring flaw that people are pointing out, it's probably because the other one has it, and so we want them to fix the issue, right? Well, that means bringing over the feature that the other one has.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, the first thing we're going to talk about, though, is not something that iOS has, and I hope iOS copies it. So they changed something with notifications. So the way that notifications works now in Android 11 is that you have your normal notifications for apps, let's say Spotify, News, eBay, Best Buy, whatever. Um, those are all below your notifications for any conversations. So Android messages, Pulse, Facebook Messenger, any kind of like chat service has essentially a tier. So like you scroll down, you pull down your notifications, and what you have is your quick settings, your music widget, and then your conversation notifications, and then everything else. And you can, from the conversation notification, quickly open up chat bubbles if you use that. Personally, I've never been a fan,
Yeah, I
but
don't like them either.
some people really like them, and so it's really easy to get those open, which is cool. But overall, just that separation of or of conversation notifications, I think is really fantastic because for most people, those are more important.
Yeah, and I think notification overload has become a real issue on mobile platforms. And in fact, it's like seeping into desktop too, where like I get
Oh, I think it's so much worse on Windows, even though I get less notifications because
because
Windows
they
does such a
interrupt.
piss poor job.
Oh yeah, no, it's bad. Well, the thing is too, they need there's some minor tweaks Windows could do to fix that, but I'm not going to go
Yeah,
on a huge tangent about it or anything. But there are some minor things they could do to make that better, make it
yeah.
like nowhere near as annoying. But even then, yeah, notification overload on iPhone or on Android. I feel like it's been more of a problem on Android actually personally, but notification overload is definitely an issue,
Mhm.
and this should in some ways help deal with it. You know, I think Android could do a little bit better of a job in the direction that iOS does when you get lots of notifications in a row that it kind of just plays every few of them, you know, so
Yeah.
you're not getting, you know, they all pop up, but they don't all make noise.
Mhm.
I think that's a good method of doing it, but
Yeah. And then the next pretty significant change is actually to the power menu, which is not something most people really give much thought to. But what they have done here is they have essentially combined the power menu, um, like the like smart home aspect of Control Center from iOS, and then your Google or Android Pay or whatever they call it, Google Pay.
yeah.
Your like access to your mobile payments. And so when you open your power menu, what happens is the top row is your normal power settings. If you want to shut the device off or restart it, that's where those buttons are. And then right below that is your different cards for mobile payments. And then below that is your smart home controls. Um, this is fantastic because Android's power menus have been different for every version of every Android OS.
Well, and not to mention like the other AI, or not AIBs, goodness, graphics cards. No, the other phone manufacturers as well, right? Like OnePlus has had a better power menu than some of the other Android phones out
Oh
there.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's like,
But this
yeah,
this brings consistency, and it puts smart home stuff in a more easily accessible place, which I always find helpful,
yeah,
especially for things like light controls and stuff.
and that way you don't have to have a damn persistent notification for it, which is so annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it also, like, having this stuff in easier access makes it nice for people that want smart homes but don't want smart speakers.
that's also a good
Because
point. Yeah,
right now, if you don't have a smart speaker, realistically, you're getting like occasional control, like if you go out of town, being able to remote control your lights and stuff. And other than that, like the only actual convenience is like that you can move your button around potentially if you have like a Philips Hue remote.
yeah, but it's like it's
Like,
not really that useful.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean timer
Um
schedules and stuff too, I guess, but
yeah.
yeah,
But like being able to really quickly and easily turn on and off lights from like a consistent menu on your phone rather than having to go into the app
yeah.
means that if you don't want a speaker, you still get the quick access to those controls that you kind of right now have via the speaker.
Now Google just
And
needs to bring this same feature onto Android Wear. But,
oh god, yeah,
Android Wear will never get anything ever.
yeah. Whereas like so like iOS Control Center has had if you have HomeKit devices,
Yeah.
has had smart home controls in that for quite a while, and I think that that was really good. And I'm glad that I almost said Microsoft, Google is putting smart home controls into the power menu.
And I'm sure they're going to do it in a more open way too, because I like HomeKit's not fantastic.
HomeKit's great. The only issue is that you need
Well, but I mean,
HomeKit devices.
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean
But
by, yeah.
but you remember that Google and Apple and Philips and all of them are working on like a joint thing, right?
Yes, yes, which hopefully will help solve a lot of the
Yeah.
issues. Because, yeah, I mean, because I'm part of the Apple ecosystem for my normal computers, it's like a part of me is like almost wanted to try out HomeKit stuff instead, but
I mean, your Philips Hue is HomeKit enabled.
yeah, but I have some stuff that's not HomeKit enabled here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Um, but it's nice to have those quick controls on the phone. So I'm glad that they're adding that here.
Yeah. And then the next big change is permissions. So for one, so location, microphone, and camera permissions now give you the option to select one time only,
Finally,
which is good. Yeah.
about time they got
Um,
that.
and then if you want to enable locations permissions for like in the background when you're not in the app, you now have to go into the settings. Now, like when it prompts you, you can select to go into the settings. It takes you to that page,
Right.
but you have to actually enable it from the OS settings. It's not something that you can enable directly via the prompt.
Oh,
And
okay.
then
That
for
makes
me,
sense to me. Yeah.
yeah,
I
for me,
mean,
the best, go ahead.
I was gonna say that the iOS does it where after several times, then it lets you allow all the time, which
Yeah.
to me is I think a slightly better approach, just because it makes it easier on the consumers to understand what's happening without having to open up settings, which for some people can really confuse them. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Um, I mean, like, realistically, though, with the way that they're doing it on Android, the worst case scenario is that an app is not tracking you
true.
when you want it to
Yeah,
be,
yeah,
which is like not, unless it's for like a safety app, it's not the biggest of deals.
yeah.
Um, the other really cool thing, though, and this is something I do want to see iOS copy. If you have not, I don't know what the time length is on this, but if you don't use an app for a certain amount of time, it will reset the permissions to none of them are enabled. So if you, let's say you give TikTok camera access or microphone access and then you don't use it for a month, theoretically, depending on what that time frame is, like it would delete that access. Same with locations, photos access, whatever. It would just remove the access for that permission. And I think that's a really good idea. If you're not using an app, it shouldn't have permission.
Totally. I think that's a great feature. I hope Apple ends up copying it.
Yeah.
And just make it like a 2-week delay even. It's not that hard to click allow access again.
Yeah. The one thing that I really was hoping to see here that we didn't see yet is what iOS is adding in iOS 14 of like the way that they're handling photo access.
Yeah, yeah.
So for those that don't know, in iOS 14, the way that it works is that when you go to open, let's say you open Twitter or Instagram or something, it'll prompt you now for which photos you want to give them access to, and then it will open Apple's photo viewer, and you can select the photos before it then will allow those photos to show up in the native app viewer. Now, apps don't actually have to use their own viewer. I don't understand why so many apps do, actually. And I think less will with this change, because from the user perspective, if you're using, like, any app can use Apple's photo puller, at
Right.
which point the photo doesn't ever go to the app until you've selected it anyway. And then the users don't have to deal with the prompt of select access to photos. And so, in my mind, unless it's something like Google Photos where you'd want it to be pulling a lot of photos, I think that most apps should just switch to using the Apple one anyway. That way users don't have to do that. But any apps that want to use their own photo viewer on iOS, you can essentially make it so that it only gets the photos that you want to give it access to.
It's a nice way of doing things. I like it. I've used it for apps that I don't trust, like Instagram and stuff like that, where it's like, no, you can
Mm-hmm.
just see the things I'm gonna post and that's it.
Yeah. I
So
mean, pretty much the only app I think that has full photo access that's a third-party app is Google Photos for me.
yeah, no, that's it. Oh, actually, no, Plex does for me as well because I back up there.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that
just
makes
backup
sense.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything else is like no lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. I mean, the more locks down you can make stuff, the better. I mean, it's better for security and privacy and stuff too. But it's not just about protecting your privacy and data. It is about the security thing too. There's, you're closing potential places for holes. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
And then a few other minor features. Again, there's a lot of really, really small stuff, so I'm not going to go into a ton, but they're changing how screenshots appear. So instead of it showing up in the notification pane, they're now showing up in the lower left corner like they did on iOS for a while now. They're adding in
It's
native
a lot
screen
more
recording.
convenient.
Yeah. They're adding in native screen recording now. Unfortunately, there is no way in this version to stop the screen recording without fully swiping down the notification pane and clicking on the currently recording notification.
Oh,
Whereas, like on iOS, when you're doing screen recording, or on some other versions of Android that have it built in, I think Samsung's might do this. I know that there's at least
yeah.
one that does it where there's like a button you can press that will then prompt you to stop the recording, and that won't show up on the screen. So you can easily stop the recording without like adding in something into the video indicating that you were like screen recording and stopped it.
Or potentially adding in a notification you don't want to be seen.
That's also
So
very
yeah.
true.
The other thing I will say too that's really nice about the screenshots being in the lower left corner is if they implement it quite the same, I want to play with it. But like in iOS, it's so nice to be able to take a screenshot of something, open it, do any edits or whatever I want to do, send it to somebody or share it to social media, and then delete it. So I
Yeah,
don't
you
have
never
all
actually have
these
to.
extra freaking photos. There's so many photos. How many times like Google Photos won't need to prompt me to delete screenshots anymore because I just won't have them. It's
And
so
you would
nice.
think like it would make sense for Google, especially where they offer free unlimited backup of photos,
Yeah.
to want to try and make it so that people are taking less unnecessary screenshots or saving less unnecessary screenshots, because it's going to save them money.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I think it would make a ton of sense for them to do it. So hopefully it works a similar way because it's just so nice
Yeah.
to just be able to be like, done, delete the photo, and never have these extra screenshots because on all my Android phones, the amount of screenshots I have is just insane. It's
Oh yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Just like
sure.
for random stuff. So yeah, that's
And
good.
then they added in a bunch of like new do not disturb control notifications. You can exempt like specific apps. You can, as I mentioned with the notification section before, you can set people to be priority notifications, and that will both prioritize them in the notification section. But then also it would, if you choose to set this up, be able to exempt them from do not disturb and things like that.
Which I think is
So
important. Yeah.
yeah, you could already exempt people from do not disturb, but this is like a just essentially a better, more granular way to exempt certain things.
Right. Yeah.
So
Cool. Well, I think that sums up Android 11. I'll play with it once I have a chance to do stuff on it. Might make a video about it. We'll see. But
Do it.